My English, Spanish, what am I?
Me English.
All right, good. All right, just making sure. I was half and half over there.
Just very quickly, obviously it's on the eve of obviously the draw. I guess your memories must go back to 1994.
Yep.
How do you reflect on that experience and how the game has grown?
Vegas was much warmer, so I'll just leave it at that. No, you know what? It's first, I never thought that in my lifetime we may have another World Cup here. You know what I mean? So with everybody buying for it, so you're just excited. You know what I mean? All the hard work you've put in right now. Now the World Cup gets real tomorrow. The World Cup starts for everybody tomorrow because now you got to start preparing for your opponent. You got to start building your roster. You've got to start doing a lot of things. So to finally get to a point where you can see who you're playing, it makes it real now.
What would you feel this will do for soccer across the region? Obviously Mexico, USA, and Canada.
Listen, I think in Mexico it's always been huge. You know what I mean? In the United States it's grown over 32 years, and look where we're at now. So it's done great. In Canada, this will be the first time. So I'm curious to see what kind of effect Canada will have, and I think it's going to be a great effect because of the fact that you've got Vancouver in one of the in the MLS Cup playoffs. They've had a great year. Toronto's won it before, so you can see what soccer and MLS has done all over the region. So let's just hope that all three teams do well. All three teams get out of the group, and then we can decide who's number one in the region.
You talked about putting pressure on the USMNT a little bit more than maybe what's happening right now.
Not me, you guys.
We should.
You guys, we never had pressure. In '94, who knew about the U.S. team? You were around, right? Did you know about the U.S. team?
I was around.
Did you expect us to win or lose? No. Exactly.
So what? So I mean, is getting out of the group stage enough?
Not good enough. No. Why? It was good enough in '94, 32 years ago. It was okay back then. It was unexpected. It was shocking to people. So we're sitting here with the league, with players playing in Europe. Why is it okay just to get out of the group? It's not okay anymore. This is where we're at in this country. We're at a place where you guys, as media, put pressure. The fans put pressure. This is a team that must get to a quarterfinal. Must get to a quarterfinal for us to be successful.
And then being on home soil, recently we've seen some USMNT games that the fans, whether they were priced out or just couldn't attend for a myriad of reasons, right?
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of a worry that maybe some of the other countries will take over the stadium?
When you go back through our World Cup history, look at the percentage of who buys the most tickets to go to a World Cup. The United States is right up there. So people want to see soccer in this country. So I'm not worried about it. The U.S. has won 5 now. They're in a good place. They've got Portugal and Belgium. We'll see. That's going to be a great challenge for them. So no, when it comes to World Cup, everybody represents their country. Everybody wants to go and support their team because it's a chance. This is the one chance. Before you start, everybody has a chance of winning something. So I think when you look at this World Cup, more teams, more games, more fans, more TV coverage. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a party. Let's be honest. It's going to be a party all over the country watching soccer.
And so just to pick up on his, one last one, just to pick up on his point, you really feel that this US team very strong and can go deep into this competition?
You're the journalist. Why not? Why not? Right? You look at a team where you've got Christian Pulisic, probably one of the top 15, 20 players in the world right now. You've got a Weston McKennie, a Tyler Adams. You can keep going down to Serginho Dest. You can go to Robinson. You can keep going to Gio Reyna. You can go to Bulligan. You can keep going down the list. They're all players that are playing in Europe. So, you know what? In a World Cup, yes, you got to have a little bit of luck. You got to get a good draw. You got to get a good second round game. So, yeah, I think we're all done with the it's okay to just get out of the group and not being, like, oh, I'm mad. No, I think this team is good enough to get out of the group. It should get out of the group, and it should get to a quarterfinal. Now, if you run into a bad draw and you get a Argentina, Brazil, but again, I think we can compete with anybody in the world, and that's been the goal since '94 is to get better and better and better through the youth system into the professional level so we can go out and we can compete with anybody in the world.
I'm from Brazil, so what do you remember about that game against Brazil in 1994?
I'm going to tell you what I learned the other day, because I talked to Bebeto a long time ago, and I saw Bebeto last night, and I was also talking with Dunga. So Dunga says, and Bebeto agreed, they both said it, that was the hardest game they played in '94. That was the one game they were worried about because they were playing on Independence Day, July 4th. They were playing the United States team that was going to run, that was going to fight, and was going to kick them and knock them out of their rhythm. So that, to me, is a compliment and a half. And then when they did get Leonardo taken out of the game because of the elbow to Tab, I told them last night, I go, it still felt like they had 12 players. Not 11, they had 12. They still knocked the ball around. It was very hard to play against a team that you didn't really, they're one less, but it didn't feel like it. So it's a great memory. We gave them a good game, but we were just, like I said, a little unexperienced, and they were the freaking good team that year.
Marcelo, el día de ayer tú dijiste que la sorpresa para ganar el Mundial sería Colombia. Fue algo que emocionó a la fanaticada colombiana. ¿Cuál es el jugador que tú dirías si es la sorpresa colombiana?
Momentum heading into this summer. But he would argue I had to fix the rot in terms of the entitlement that has crept in and has prevented this group from moving forward and prevented the right fire when you play with the national team. And so once he did that, combined with the tactics change of playing with a back three, that is so flexible in the way that you can attack and defend, I think that's when we started to see progress. And I'll never forget, once he went to the back three, we saw progress for the first time. And then he's built on that ever since. He's built on the mentality, and he's built on options and depth, which we didn't have in the past. No one would have ever thought that Alex Freeman would be an option on this national team, or Max Arfson. We look at what Malik Tillman is now for this team, but also in the same time you have Zendejas, you have a Weston McKennie that is now going to be playing higher up the field. A player like Johnny Cardoso is at Atletico Madrid, and he's not even close to sniffing this 26-man roster, which tells you how far they've come. A player like Diego Luna, who I think quickly impressed Pochettino with his mentality more so than his quality, and he is a player that has a lot of quality. So I'm really excited about the depth and the hunger that this group has shown, because that's what's gonna take between, when you're looking at a World Cup. I go back to 2009 Confederations Cup, Spain. We're playing Brazil. We're playing Egypt. Sometimes it's not so much the quality as it is the desire and the hunger and the commitment. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how good or how talented your team is. Look at Brazil. They have all the best individual talented players. You could go down the line, but then you can play through them like Swiss cheese. So at the same time, I think Pochettino has done an incredible job of rebuilding the mentality and the competition for spots, which essentially I think makes him the right man for the job. Now we'll see in the summer.
We know the likes of Adams and Pulisic will be on the plane. Of course, there's some familiar faces, but where do you think some of the biggest selection conundrums are?
Yeah, great question. So with the new formation, you're playing with two attacking 10s, and Christian Pulisic is one of those players. I think everyone can cement him into the starting 11. I think Pochettino is going to have a tough time deciding who the other three are, because there are a number of options alongside Christian, because it's not necessarily the best players. And I think that's come out of a lot of conversations as of late, whether it's Ashley Cole talking about England in 2006, whether it's Pochettino talking about this current group. It's not about the names, it's about how the players fit with each other and how committed they are to what Pochettino wants to bring to every match. So he's going to have a headache with Tillman, McKennie, and Reina as the number 10 options alongside Christian Pulisic. And then in the 2-8-6 role, you got Tessman, you got Tyler Adams. You could move Weston McKennie there. You got a Sebastian Berhalter who's played extremely well under Pochettino. So I'd say that's probably going to be the positions that keep him up at night, because that balance is going to be everything, because that's the heart of the U.S. men's national team. That's where the most talent is. The back three, you probably can cement Chris Richards in there and Tim Ream. It's figuring out who that third center back is, and we've seen him do makeshift right backs, moving them in. Alex Freeman has played there a little bit. Joe Scally's played there a little bit. Miles Robinson has played there a little bit. Mark McKenzie's played there a little bit. So figuring out who that is, and I think the question that everybody's thinking about is, what happens with Anthony Robinson if he's not available? He's such an impactful player. So if Anthony Robinson's not playing, is it Timothy Weah? Is it Max Arfson, who he's gone with? Serginho Dest, is he a certain on that right wing spot? You would think so, but he's really liked Freeman. So I think those are some of the questions, but ultimately I think most of his 11 in his mind is probably set.
Just finally, what would constitute a good World Cup?
Semi-finals. Getting to the semi-finals.
They're capable of going that far to the last four?
Absolutely. It's a home World Cup with a super talented team, and it's a team that I feel just needed the right coaching, because it wasn't about maybe selecting the right players, but it was about pushing the top-end players. And I think that's why I said a European coach, a manager who has managed in Europe and has had success, is what this group needed to be able to push a Christian Pulisic, to be able to push a Weston McKennie and a Tyler Adams and a Valerian Balogun. You needed a manager who's not afraid to make those decisions and to light a fire under them. And Mauricio Pochettino is that guy. So I think when you're thinking about how far can this team go, why can't they make a semifinals? If Morocco can, why can't the U.S.? And I firmly believe that the semifinals is an absolute dream, and I think that's something that they can achieve.
Always a pleasure catching up. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, mate.
Thank you.
Soon.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Take care.
Charlie, just real quickly, because you're talking about semifinals and Marcelo said quarterfinals. Would a run like that, what would a run like that, I guess, do to MLS, and would it affect it much to the popularity of the league?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say. I think the most impact would be with the kids in this country. So ultimately, it would help MLS so much more down the line if we're talking long term. The effects of this team making a deep run would push every kid in this country to want to play soccer. And not only want to play soccer, but play it at the highest level, to want to dream like I did as a young kid to play in a World Cup. And that's the best fuel a World Cup can do. So you're generating lifelong fans. So that's where I think the success is going to happen. 96 was great because the league was created, because the U.S. showed they could compete. But I think if we're talking about 15 years down the road after 2026, I think that's where we're going to see, look at the incredible world-class players we're producing. And I'd say a large part of that is due to the success of this group and the success of the infrastructure.
I have a question, please. I'm Mohammed from Saudi Press Agency. US will hold World Cup next year and Saudi Arabia 2023. And Saudi Arabia and US spend a lot of money in sport to develop, to enhance, to bring a lot of big players around the world. What do you think about some similarities, the benefits in this case?
Yeah. I think when you're bringing some of the bigger players in the world, it's to inspire the people there to come to watch the game, because they entertain, they excite. And then you're saying, wow, this is a sport that is going to provide opportunities for our young kids in our country. So I think the U.S., they did it the right way. They did it in a way that would allow them to grow. So they've had to do some things, change some things, but along the way, I think that the mindset was this is a long-term play. And for Saudi Arabia, I think it's the same thing. The Middle East, it's got to be a long-term play. You can't try to change everything now. It's got to be taking steps in the right direction. And so I think from that standpoint, the world's game is in a great place, because the Middle East, after Qatar got the World Cup, you could see that there was a big explosion in the sport and the interest of the sport. And now with Saudi Arabia coming on, I think it's great for the world, it's great for the game, and it's going to be great for the people of Saudi Arabia.
First of all, let's just say, he talked about the importance of the USMNT and putting some pressure on the guys. What does a good run in the World Cup for the USMNT do for the league domestically?
Okay, before I get into that, let's understand that with the World Cup coming here, no matter what, soccer's going to grow. It just depends at the level. Every time that the United States does well and has a good showing and goes beyond expectations, you see that exponential growth. So if this U.S. men's national team does go beyond what we're talking about is a good point for them, I think it's going to have that explosion, as we like to say, of support, within the United States. It's going to lead to exponential growth of the game. It's going to create new stars. It's going to create excitement for this sport like we haven't seen since, some of the last big games or the big World Cup positions that the U.S. have had.
What are your expectations for this U.S. team going into this World Cup?
I have high expectations, for the U.S. team. Look, we don't know. We'll know a lot more as of tomorrow. When we know what the group is going to be like, but I still have high expectations for this team. I think it's a good team. I think Mauricio Pochettino has them going in the right direction. You could see, before they weren't winning games, and now a few months later they're starting to win some games. And to be quite honest, you don't want to win games 6 months ago. You want to start winning your games and start to play well now as you lead up into the Cup. And as I say, 6-7 months until the Cup. That's what, 2 windows, to come together that we're really going to see the team playing in March, and then maybe the game in June, before that, then it's Cup. So you want to see in these next 2 series, get better than you were before.
And then just finally, in terms of having this World Cup across US, Canada and Mexico, what do you feel that would do for soccer all across this area?
I think it's wonderful, for soccer. Just the World Cup in itself is wonderful, but as 3 host nations between U.S., Mexico, and Canada, I think it's very good beyond the game. Just culturally bringing those 3 nations as host nations together, because you have to work together, to get everything done, within all the various countries that are going to be coming and visiting, that are going to be crossing over borders and all these different things. So I think it's excellent. I think it's going to help the game. I think it's going to help more of a connection. As Commissioner Garber said before, we've been trying to build closer connections between the leagues, and I think with this World Cup, that kind of spurs things on.
What difference does it make to play the World Cup at home versus abroad?
It's very different. To a degree, there's more support, but there's also a whole lot more pressure. And if you have played in a World Cup before, you may think you know what that pressure is like, but it's completely different when you're in front of your home crowd. Because we're all human, and we're players, and we know that we're playing for our country, we're playing for our city, we're playing for our family, our friends, and they're all here and they're watching. So that's going to be a little bit more pressure that the players will probably put upon themselves.
Have you talked to them at all? Do you have any advice for them?
I have not talked to them, but the advice I always give is remember it's a game, and to go out there and have fun. And that does sound cliche, but the thing is when you're having fun out there, things tend to go a lot more smooth. Yes, there will be the pressure. Yes, it's work, but as a coach of mine used to say, let's go have some serious fun.
Cobi, I'm from Brazil. What
Yes.
do you remember about your time playing for Vasco?
It was a wonderful time down in Vasco. It was, I'm a Vascaíno, so I enjoyed the time that I spent down there. It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It gave me a good look at the sport in a different way. Coming from England, and playing, it's a very different type of, thought process of the game in England as compared to when I went down to Brazil, living on Rio, living on Copacabana Beach and Barra de Tijuca for a while. It was very different, enjoyable, but the work gets done.
Did you learn any words in Portuguese?
I started dreaming in Portuguese, to be quite honest, but that was a long time ago, so I don't know anything now.
Thank you.
Cobi, with
Yes.
the game this weekend, I guess just what kind of an impact can it have for the league globally as well, should Lionel Messi, of course, go on to become champion?
I think it's going to do amazing things as far as bringing attention, to the league if Messi, wins it. There's going to be a lot of talk about, he goes somewhere else and wins it all, right? I think that's fantastic. It just gets people talking about MLS, and they'll talk about it for a longer period of time, so to speak, if Vancouver wins, and that's just the harsh reality, of it all. Now, who do people want to win? Who knows? It's always good to have an underdog story too, right? It's always good to have the story of like a Sebastian Berhalter that seems to be coming, I shouldn't say coming out of nowhere, but that's an American that's been putting in the hard work, starting to play for the national team, starting to do very well in set pieces and looking very good. Marcelo Pochettino's talking about him. Is he going to make the national team? So those are other stories. These are all the things that we want in a final match, you know. And then obviously you got Thomas Müller going up there and his impact, you know, on that team. So there's a lot of stories there. I think regardless of the result, there's going to be a lot of talk about it. The most important thing for me, I think more important than Messi winning, is that it's an exciting match. That's what I want more than anything else. I want to have the back and forth, the up and down, just the attacking game, the hard defending.
And how would you summarize the impact that Messi has had since coming?
Oh, it's a major impact that he has had. I liken it, you know, from my era. It's like when David Beckham came. You know, wherever he goes, you know, stadium sellout. You know, that's what it's like when you have the superstars come into the league. So to have Messi come in, I was never able to talk about this really when he first came into the league, but I think it was probably one of the most impactful things that Messi came into this league right after winning a World Cup. So there was no one that could say, oh, because we hear it a lot here, oh, you're going to a retirement league. He just won the World Cup and arguably the best player on his team, leading Argentina through that World Cup. So it was fantastic to see him come in and put this league on his back as well and help support it and build it up.
You talked about...
You mentioned David Beckham, of course.
Yeah.
You know, what would it mean for you to see him go on from...
That guy's got everything. He doesn't need any more. No. I think it's fantastic that, you know, that he put in his time, put in his work, got this group together in Miami, helped establish it, helped build it from the ground up, you know, design and everything. He was involved in a lot of everything that happened, from the nuts and bolts of the team all the way, you know, to player acquisitions and everything. And obviously he has that impact there. You know, so for me, you know, I always going to say congratulations, you know, to someone like David. You know, he's a good friend. And so I'm very proud of what he's done. You know, nothing but support for him.
Do you think, you talked to the panel about how far MLS has come. Do you think for MLS to take the next step even further out, some of the roster rules need to be loosened up a little bit, or do you think MLS can achieve that without changing that?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the next steps, whatever those are going to be. I think MLS is naturally progressing. You know, as Commissioner Garber said, you never say never. Things are slowly starting to change. I mean, we're looking at a major change of just the schedule, you know, in and of itself. So I imagine we've seen every few years the roster rules change. I imagine it's going to go forward. And one thing that I've learned, you know, because I know what my salary was at the beginning, everything tends to increase, you know, over time. So I'm sure that will happen in the next few years.
Appreciate
it. Just one on Ghana. I'm from Ghana. We played the US in 2006. We beat you in 2006, 2010, 2014. You got one on us. There's been some talk about the US possibly drawing Ghana again. What's your thoughts on the rivalry between yourself and the Black Stars? And do you potentially think that we could meet again? And how do you think that would pan out?
Yeah, look, I think it's a possibility that they could meet again. I mean, I've talked about it before. You know, Ghana is the little bogeyman for the United States. They always seem to find a way to draw together, and it seems to be an issue. And for the Black Stars, look, they're a good team. You know, that's what it comes down to. They're a good, talented team that seem... as everybody knows in sports, there's teams that just match up well against one another, and Ghana always seems to match up well against the United States. And yes, I would hope that the U.S. can figure it out and beat Ghana, you know, if that matchup does come in 26.
Kobe is the former face of American soccer. Just how much pressure do you think is under Mr. Pulisic this upcoming season?
Well, there's going to be a lot of pressure. You know, he's the star of the team, you know, but, you know, we can always say heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? You know, he's the face of it. He gets the accolades, you know, of the team, and I think he knows. He knows that. He knows he's the star of the team. I mean, but this young man handles pressure every day when he's in the Serie A, so I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy or too far above what he's experienced, you know, in the Serie A. It's going to be different. I think it's going to be a different type of pressure, but, you know, I think he'll be very capable of handling it. He's played in a couple World Cups already.
And you just mentioned Ghana, but who else should the U.S. look out for in the World Cup?
You know, I mean, I could say in the World Cup you never know who you're going to play against. So what can I say? Spain, Argentina, But you just have to wait and see how the draw is going to go. I know that there's a possibility when we're talking in the pots. I think it's still the same from when I saw it a week or so ago that, one of the ones that would concern me is if Norway gets into the group with the United States. I mean, nobody.
Why Norway?
Well, hold on, let me get there. I don't think anyone wants to meet up with what I would say is the best striker in the world right now in Erling Haaland. Because he is just he seems to be unstoppable. At this point, I mean, you only have to take a look at what he did to Italy, or the whole team, I should say, the Norwegian team did to Italy. They're I liken it. And don't kill me on this, everybody. I liken it to Argentina, where you have that one superstar and then a variety of different talented players that know what they need to do to take that star to another level, to push and pull the whole team through. And I think he can do something like that. That's special. I think a lot of coaches, a lot of defenses would be saying, how do we stop Erling Haaland? And I'm not sure many can.
Okay, I'm going to move Kobe